Apologies for this interruption, but we have some breaking news.
Wait for it. Oh, you got me shit.
Huh?
Nope, we are not kidding. Welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres. We take it today to the release of Captain America Brave New World, the fourth entry in the Captain America series, and the 20th or 30th or 100 quillionth Marvel Studios film since its inception with Iron Man. And a lot has changed since we last seen a Captain America film. We no longer have Steve Rogers. We no longer have Tony Stark, or at least for now we don't have the actor playing Tony Stark. But we do have Sam Wilson portraying Captain America. Let's see how this goes. Before we get going into this film, I just wanted to let you know that this will be a spoiler-free part of the review. At a timestamp that I will mark in the video, there will be a spoiler part of this video if you don't want to have anything mentioned to you that would spoil your enjoyment of the film. With that in mind, let's get started. Story picks up with Sam navigating the weight of the shield while facing global threats that test his leadership, his ideals, and his ability to unite a divided world. The government isn't fully on his side, old enemies resurface, and new alliances are formed. We also see the return of Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, now played by Harrison Ford, who's stepping into the role of U.S. President, which likely adds a layer of political tension. The tension reaches a breaking point when Sam's friend Isaiah Thomas Bradley gets in trouble with the law and is now facing the death penalty for treason against the country. Sam is now on a mission to investigate and prove Isaiah's innocence. You'll notice that some of these plot points are shown in the theatrical trailer. Isaiah is a recurring character from Falcon the Winter Soldier, who was first discovered to have been experimented on with the super soldier serum. And now that we've laid the groundwork for the plot, here are my impressions of the film. While the film does its best to capture the energy of, say, Winter Soldier and Civil War, it does come off kind of bland and just not the type of story I was hoping for. It had the chance to be a good political thriller in the spirit of Red October and current present danger, but there were quite a few things that did not resonate with me. For instance, Sam's motives are driven by outside external events, none of which truly affects him directly except for his friendship with Isaiah. I would have loved to see more personal stakes to drive his arc in the main story. Maybe perhaps a love interest, a rift with his friend Bucky might have come a long way as well. Something to humanize him with. Anthony Mackie is a good actor who plays his parts the best he can, but Sam Wilson does not strike me as Captain America, only a cosplay portrayal at best. Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross was a great choice in casting, as he can portray a political figure as he had done in Air Force One. His arc was compelling enough, but feels out of place when you're dealing with a Captain America film. Which leads me to my biggest complaint of the film. The antagonist, which I won't spoil here, but is a familiar one and not a common enemy of Sam Wilson, let alone Steve Rogers. That, coupled with several plot elements throughout the film, such as Black Panther, the Eternals, and even the X-Men are thrown into this movie. All of this gives us a Marvel film, but none of which is really a Captain America film minus Steve Rogers. If this was a Falcon and Winter Soldier movie, I would have been all for this. Both characters are compelling enough to hold their own as a buddy cop pair, and it works. The jokes that they landed in that series was way better than the ones they landed in the movie as well. When you have Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan together on camera, they absolutely are stellar. But when separate, it doesn't do as well for them. While I like my comic book movies to be more serious, especially with jokes, there is a need to break tension once in a while with a little bit of humor. But there were no jokes in this film that landed well at all. The kind that the Russo brothers inserted in their Captain America films were really good, but they definitely were not present here in this film at all. Overall, I found this to be very mid and just of no real substance for this movie, at least for this portion of our non-spoiler review. Now, from here on out, this is where we start talking about spoilers for the film, so this is your one and only opportunity to click away. If you're still here, you've been warned, and you will be spoiled. Here we go. Another actor in the film that was a later addition to the film was Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder from the Serpent Society, who are portrayed as mercenaries for hire in the film. While his acting is good for roles in The Mandalorian and Breaking Bad, I did not like his portrayal of the character, which I chalk up to lazy writing and go-to casting with no real effort to land him in a role that fits his acting ability. You'll notice that once again, my issues are not with the actors, not with Anthony Mackie, not with Sebastian Stan, or any of the other actors per se, but just with the writing and production is what I am taking issue with. Take, for example, what I said about the amalgamation of plots from other movies. You have a Celestial's head from Eternals in this movie. Adamantium from the X-Men universe is in this movie. Vibranium from Black Panther on Sam's wings, and the Red Hulk in the plot with no Bruce Banner to be found, let alone Wolverine. How any of this identifies as a Captain America film is just beyond me. What would I say identifies as a Captain America film? Well, for starters, this definitely needed Steve Rogers. Hell, you could have had old man Steve Rogers in this, and it would have added some depth to the film. The old Cap may be retired, but it doesn't mean he's never around. Maybe he was selected, at least as an idea, to be vice president with Thaddeus. Already, by doing that, you're creating a compelling story with him in it. Next up is the character of Joaquin Torres, played by Daniel Ramirez, who comes off being nothing more than a snotty kid with swagger that is not appreciated, let alone earned at the least bit in the story. If he was meant to be comic relief, none of his jokes land, let alone the ones with Old Man Isaiah or his strange fetish with Ant-Man, another character not in the film but has more ties to Sam than Joaquin did. Sabra, portrayed by Shira Haas, was another amalgamation that just did not land for me either. You already have a Black Widow and Thunderbolts, but sure, why not have another one here? Never mind that her original backstory in the comics was that she was a mutant from Israel, which we know why Marvel kept that detail out of the film. And I'm sorry, but I don't care if you were trained in the Red Room or not, but I am not buying that a 5'2" tiny woman can take out a slew of soldiers all by herself. Yes, Scarlett Johansson is 5'3", but even with that, you still have yet another Black Widow when there are dozens of female fatales you could have chosen. Again, this is not about the actress or any of the other actors, but the roles that they have been shoehorned into are not convincing for me in the least bit. Another tangent in the film I did not enjoy was obvious cuts and reshoots that affected the story. Now, I am aware that director Julius Onah has gone on record as saying that the film was not reshot as many times as was alluded in the press. However, I'm not buying into that, as there were scenes in the trailer that were never appeared in the film. For instance, there is definitely a cemetery scene that was never shown in the film that probably was the funeral for Thaddeus Ross's death, which we don't know that for sure. It's not confirmed, but it does make you wonder why so many shots did not make the film. Never mind that the budget for the film was likely closer to $200 million, even though they are stating that it is less than that. But if you also add in advertising, principal photography, and other factors, you still have to ask yourself, where did all that money go to? Just for the CGI for the Red Hulk? I highly doubt that. As for the Red Hulk, his arc was probably the most compelling part of the film, but with one caveat. All elements of this arc should have been in a Hulk movie, or perhaps a Wolverine movie if you throw in the adamantium. The reason I say that brings me back to the villain, and oh dear God, yes, I'm not talking about Thaddeus Ross, but instead, the leader, portrayed by Tim Blake Nelson, who previously in the Incredible Hulk movie was the infamous Mr. Blue, who tried to find a cure for Bruce Banner's Hulk transformations, but was later arrested after the debacle with the Hulk versus the Abomination in that movie. Let's just state the obvious, which adds to my argument about the budget earlier I mentioned about the film. How in the world did this pass through so many hands and get greenlit as a perfect look for the leader? Look at it. Seriously, look at it. I don't care if this is a comic accurate or not. In general, this was terrible CGI or makeup or a combination of the two. But putting that aside, the plot rides around Thaddeus betraying Samuel Stearns and keeping him locked up in prison after the events of Incredible Hulk. All of this would have been a perfect follow-up to that film, and maybe tie up loose ends, which in part was done here, minus a very important character, I don't know, maybe Bruce Banner. We did get Betty Ross in The Incredible Hulk, also to appear in this film at the very end, but again, I state the obvious, all these were loose ends that could have been tied up in either a Hulk film or at least a Wolverine film. Were there not any other stories that Sam's comic book run as Captain America could have been used to justify his own movie? It would appear that that was not the case. It is of note to mention that comics that featured Sam Wilson as Captain America did poorly in sales in comparison to Bucky's run as Captain America during the all-new, all-different initiative that started in 2017. This is why I iterate that Sam Wilson as the Falcon was way more interesting with Bucky Barnes as his partner. It was the one thing that made the MCU version interesting and would give it more legs to go on for movies to come. As of this recording, Captain America Brave New World is on track to make, in its opening weekend, $192 million globally, though some speculate that the numbers are being fudged in anticipation for a drop off the following weekend. Just have to wait and see. In the current state Marvel Studios is in, they need to make a consistent number of hits on the level of Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine if they hope to win back fans as they reach their next move in the lineup. Thunderbolts is set to premiere in April, and then Fantastic Four First Steps in July, which goes up against a juggernaut's Superman and Jurassic Park. I don't envy that fight in the least bit. As for this film, I will only say that this is a mid-meh movie for me. It's not horrible, but it's doesn't break any new ground for me. There were no shocking revelations, even with the leader reveal or the Red Hulk, which was already spoiled by the trailer. There was nothing that got me excited for the next film, just another notch in my belt that I managed to sit through for 2 hours of a nothing burger. Well, those are my thoughts on this film, and as it does seem, I am pretty much ranting much about this film because, again, I do express that this was not a film that really wowed me in any way or any fashion. It's another movie for Marvel Studios to have made, but is it one that I would recommend? I highly doubt so. But however, I do want to hear your thoughts on the film and how you felt you would have rated this particular film, and maybe what your anticipation is for the next series of Marvel films coming your way. Again, like and share and subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you soon, and you best better believe I'll be back.